I was going to, not make fun of you for placing an order for something and then immediately deciding to cancel it.
No, I think we should talk about it because I did cancel it.
You're listening to Dots, Lines, and Destinations, a travel podcast with hosts Stephen Seagraves, Fosma Moon, and Seth Miller.
Hello, and welcome to episode 323 of Dots, Lines, and Destinations. I'm Stephen Seagraves, joined by Fosma Moon and Seth Miller. Close to being Happy New Year, gentlemen.
Indeed.
Are we finally leaving 2020?
Yeah, but I just think it's going to be the 13th. I think it's going to be the 13th month of 2020.
I feel like we're going into Groundhog Day.
Yeah, it's going to be March 312, and it's still going to be a shit show. But hey.
It is hard to believe that it has been 9 months of this. To be honest with you.
But hey, 1 million people went to the airport this past week. 6 of the 9 days, 6 of 10 days, something like that.
I look forward to the numbers that we have in 14 days. Yeah. And by look forward to it, I dread it. But anyway. You know what's funny is I was having a conversation with
people complaining about crowds at airports.
That too, yes. People who are traveling complaining about crowds at airports.
Yeah,
what's funny, I was talking to a coworker of mine in Montreal. And they're pretty much on a lockdown. So people are actually getting fined for gathering in groups more large than certain numbers and stuff. And they have a website where you can report this stuff. But you have to put in your personal information to report it. I would be very hesitant to do that.
Is it narc.ca?
Go undercover for us today. It's just kind of strange. But then on the flip side, I was talking to my family in Texas. And they are like, oh, yeah, we just went out and had Mexican food at the Mexican restaurant. Like, it's no big deal. Like, it's just, it's like this completely different world. Like, here, I haven't been to a restaurant since March to eat in. And in Texas, I guess, and my mom said to me, she goes, I'm just ready for things to get back to normal. I said to her, it doesn't sound like things have changed very much for you. So.
Ouch. Harsh but true.
So, anyway.
When you submit, when you go to the website to submit, just use Pandy Readerson.
I'm sure Randy would be very thankful for us doing that.
Pandy, not Randy.
It's a completely different person, Stephen. I don't know what you're talking about.
Totally. I want to talk about street food.
Food.
And the history of street food and the discovery made in Pompeii. Seth, you sent the link to a group of us. I'll let you talk about it, but I found it a fascinating story.
Yeah, so the gist of it is that there's, Pompeii, massive, was it Mount Etna? Is that the volcano, right? Massive volcanic eruption, buried the city very quickly, and super opportunity to sort of go back and excavate and look through, because it literally was sort of, no one got away, or very few got away, and so it was sort of a very good snapshot in time. And one of the new areas that they've started excavating and exploring, it's not open for visitors yet, which is good, because no one should be visiting probably. Although you can fly Delta to Rome without quarantine if you get tested in Atlanta and when you arrive. But they found what's called a termopolium. I think termopolium, and that's the Latin word for a hot drinks counter. And effectively, it's like an exceptionally well-preserved food market, or food stalls, and it's like a hot food counter, and it's got like holes in the countertop where the giant columns were stored for terracotta jars with hot food. Beautiful frescoes painted on the front that, from the pictures and video I've seen on this report, look incredibly well-preserved, like bright colors and stuff still. It's super cool. And like most places, like what's good for me with most foreign travel, it's picture menus.
And what was the featured items, I guess, like the dishes? Was there food? Was there just drink? Was there everything?
No, it was both. So they had chicken and duck were options. I'm rereading this article now because there's drinking bowls were found nearby. There's a little bit
some kind of fish stew. I think they mentioned was like
traces of pork, fish, snails, and beef were found in some of the containers. It's just super, super interesting to see this extra stuff. The yellow in the paint in these pictures is just really, like, that's, 2,000 years old, but obviously it was buried, but, like, super bright yellow paint is kind of amazing to me. And the fact that basically the structure of the of this stall is effectively unchanged 2,000 years later, except this one was semi-permanent. Like, or not semi-permanent. This one was permanent, right? I mean, it was, built and constructed and whatnot, but like lots of little containers for different foods and stuff. And you'd walk up and they'd pull stuff out of one of the jars, serve it to you, and you'd move on. Very little has changed in that context, I feel like.
Now, was there a letter rating in the window?
It's just not New York City, Foz. We don't score, healthcare.
It started in California well before New York did it.
Did it? Yes.
I do have to agree with you, Seth. The yellow color in the paint being as preserved as it was is amazing to me. Like, it's just, I mean, kind of like, what were they using? What kind of radioactive paint were they using to make it last that long?
I guess the counterpoint to that is most paint fades because of UV sun exposure, and this was buried forever. So, the good news, bad news, it's great now, but unless they put like some sort of cover over it,
it's going to fade eventually.
It's going to fade.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really cool story from the perspective of, like, we as a group, you, me, and Foz, we enjoy street food. And I was just watching something the other day about Bangkok and the street food there, and it took me back, Foz, to when you and I went to Singapore. I think I had this discussion like 3 years ago around Christmas time, and you got introduced to lime water.
Oh God, that.
And when I say introduced, you were then quickly addicted, and demanding it.
Evil.
But delicious.
So it's like just one of those things that you kind of crave when you travel, is tasting the food on the street, because it does, everywhere you go, there's usually something cooking somewhere and you smell it and you want to try it.
Yeah. You remember when Bangkok or Thailand sort of threatened to kill off the street food markets there? Mm-hmm. A few years ago? That didn't go so well.
Yeah, they revolted. Yeah. So next up, Montenegro Airlines is finished?
They're done.
I honestly didn't know they had ever begun.
Well, yes. So there's that. Without trying, I don't have to try to be too snarky, right? Without trying to be too snarky, I often wonder, like, is there a reason some of these airlines exist? And other than sort of pride of national government in this case, right? It was sort of the national carrier, and they are planning to recapitalize as a new airline next year, 6 to 9 months from now. So it's not like the government isn't willing to keep spending the money. It's just that the government can't, under EU rules, subsidize the old operation. They have to let it collapse and then fund a new one. Otherwise, state aid. Other than Alitalia, apparently everybody pays attention to these sorts of rules. It was something like that is how I understood the situation. So, it's an interesting challenge, I guess. But I don't know. So you're Montenegro Airlines. Obviously, you can fly from the capital to lots and lots of places if you want, except you don't have that many planes, and you don't go to all that many places. So, is it really better than to do that rather than, I don't know, say better or worse? But could you not get decent service from other places, other bigger airlines? Does every small country in Europe, or every even big country in Europe, need its own airline or multiple airlines compared to, it's almost to me like every state in the U.S. having a different airline? Yeah. In some ways. I don't know. It's weird.
I was looking up because I wanted to see where, the capital airport is, Podgorica? I don't know how to say it. I hope I'm not butchering it too badly. And I'm on Wikipedia, and there's literally no Montenegro Airlines listings. I don't know if they've already been removed.
They have.
Okay. Where did they fly?
Vienna, Paris, Frankfurt, Rome, Moscow. So all of those are hubs for other airlines, right? Then Belgrade, Ljubljana, and Zurich. Ljubljana and Zurich also are hubs for other airlines. Then they had seasonal service to Gatwick, St. Petersburg, Russia, Munich, Leipzig, Hanover, Dusseldorf, Lyon, and Copenhagen.
Interesting.
So, I guess, right, would you have gotten nonstop seasonal service to Copenhagen from either Tivat, which is another place that they operate from the hub, or Podgorica? Maybe, maybe not. On the one hand, having your national airline to do that for you is great. On the other hand, offer EasyJet or Ryanair or Wizz Air free landing fees, and they'll just show up and run it for you. But seriously, if you're looking at it from an economic perspective, how many millions of dollars or euros or whatever are you going to spend running an airline if the goal is just to improve tourism or whatever those things are? yeah, then like you don't. It doesn't need to be your own airline. What you need is the people, not the planes.
Yeah.
And if you really want the planes, is it just I don't know. It seems like sort of an arrogance play in some ways to me.
But national pride.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I mean, it's yeah. It would be cool to get them as a carrier, and they'll be. I mean, like you said, they'll be back probably, right?
Apparently.
But I mean, part of the consideration, right? Yeah, you could get Ryanair or Wizz or someone else to fly in, subsidize it a little bit or something. But a lot of those we've seen in the past, those types of arrangements fail as soon as the subsidies stop.
Right. So does running an airline out of Montenegro, apparently. I mean, again, I'm not trying to. I'm coming off as a little more snarky than I probably want to, but like that is what's happening here. They're burning cash to keep an airline running. What's the difference? It's the name on the side.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you could just wet lease a plane and put your own name on the side.
Yeah, which I mean, in some ways, it's just what they're doing.
I was going to say. So a Max lawyer. One of the Max, representative lawyers for the families, right, was essentially skimming funds from the victims. Is that how I read this?
Yeah. And, like, let's start with the guy in question is literally the lawyer that was the subject of the movie Aaron Brockovich.
No.
Yes.
No.
So let's start with maybe hasn't had, like, the greatest history. I'm almost surprised to get readmitted to the bar or wasn't disbarred for that, but whatever. Yeah.
Well, that took a turn.
It's the lead in the story, Stephen. You gotta click the link, man.
I try to go into this show as completely unprepared as possible.
Also, his wife was one of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
He sounds like a real character.
Yeah. Apparently, they were, and this is a known challenge this is a known, very, very well known, do not do this at all thing for lawyers, is commingling of funds. And apparently he was pulling in money out for one thing and sort of paying out other bills for another, including perhaps some personal efforts. But yeah, he was always trying to sort of find the payouts, and in this case, he's got a little bit of a problem. He never really had the he was taking in the money as like $2 million worth of family payments, but it never paid him out.
Wow.
And now his attorney is suggesting now that her client may not be mentally competent, trying to use that as a way to get away from censure or jail. I mean, it's criminal at some level.
Yeah, absolutely. Sheesh.
So yay.
What is this about the Delta Psyche Val pilot? What is this? I don't know the story.
No. A few years ago, a Delta pilot raised a lot of safety concerns. And this, by the way, a pilot with like a PhD in airline safety practices. Ran him up the flagpole, sort of a whistleblower situation. And as part of the response, the company ordered a psychiatric evaluation from its doctors. That doctor flagged the pilot as possibly bipolar, and her medical license was revoked as a result, so she was no longer able to fly. And was seen as sort of a retaliatory move for raising questions around training and, work hours and pilot fatigue and things like that. Went back and forth through the courts for years, and different appeals in different places. The Department of Labor administrative judge finally ruled that she was in fact retaliated against. And as an added bonus, explicitly stated that the current chief of the FAA was involved, because at the time, you may recall, he was, before his stint as the FAA, he was Delta's VP for flight operations or something like that. He would have been in charge of that group. And it actually came up during his confirmation hearings, and there was a whole lot of other people who were handling that sort of plausible deniability responses given. And, it definitely wasn't retaliatory. It's just, it's a normal process, blah, blah, blah. The doctor who made that diagnosis was routinely used by Delta and apparently miraculously, everybody referred to him, seemed to have a problem.
They all had bipolar disorder.
Basically, he was just, it's not disbarred, but whatever, he had his license revoked. He's no longer allowed to practice medicine in the state of Illinois, which is where he's based. So, probably not a great resource. I don't know. It's an interesting story in a lot of ways, but it's the headlines are playing up as like FAA administrator, da 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 da, and like, yeah, it's the same guy, but he didn't do it as the FAA administrator, so there's a little bit of a twisting there, I feel like. But
do you think this changes how? I mean, one, did the pilot get any kind of restitution for being basically kicked out and?
I don't know if she got back pay and things like that. I know she was reinstated. I know she's flying again. She's flying the 330. But I don't recall what the other bits were.
Yeah, that's great. She's back flying for Delta?
Yeah.
Would you want that job back?
I mean, you have to think about the seniority, right? You can't go somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, in any other world, like, you would just be like, I'm going to find a different job, I would think.
Or go do this somewhere else, right? I mean, seniority is a big challenge. I would also make the argument of, like, one of the parts of the ruling was Delta has to tell all the other pilots about this, like, I don't know if it's an email or whatever, they have to announce to the rest of the pilots, we got caught doing this, as a way to, like, call attention to the fact that it's not right and they will get in trouble if they do it again, so other people will know to, pay attention. So that's a sort of interesting twist on it. But also, I mean, we've joked / quipped a little bit of, like, it's never safer to fly except after the crash because everybody's paying attention to all the rules again. Like, you gotta think she's not going to have any retaliation issues going forward. They know she's good. Like, she's got a real good chance of winning because she's already done it once.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know.
Crazy. I was going to say, this reminds me of that. You got into a Twitter discussion with someone today about, the 1960s were such a great time to be in the air.
1936. Airports were so fast and efficient.
1936.
Convenient and fast in 1936.
When there was only 30 people flying.
Like, total. And you only would spend, because you could get from the curb to the gate in 10 minutes, which, I mean, I've done not that long ago, even today. But putting that part aside, it was like, yes, and, if your plane doesn't get hijacked or crash or get lost or any of myriad other issues, that's an added bonus.
Yeah, I mean,
he blocked me, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Holy crap! Oh my god. Well, it's true though. Like the 1960s, like you were
30s even. It's just 30s.
But I'm saying if you were flying in the 1960s, like because people always love to make the argument, like, oh, it was the best time to fly, the 1960s.
Golden age of travel. Yeah.
The golden, and it's like, yeah, if you were traveling then, you mostly got on the airplane and prayed that it didn't fall out of the sky because incidents were happening right and left. They were just discovering jet flight with the panels pressurizing and depressurizing and cracks and all these things. Yeah, that's a great time to be in the air.
I do wonder, like, we of course know all those challenges now, but I wonder, like, did people really give a shit about it other than, like, enough people were just like, I get to fly, this is amazing. And I feel that way today. Like, I think airplanes are magic, but that's cool. I'll still go flying.
Yeah, I'm pretty reasonably certain people weren't really thinking about these things.
Yeah, they didn't really know there was a problem.
It's not like after the Hindenburg, people are like, I don't know if I really want to take that giant airship trip anymore.
They're probably just like, well, there's no hydrogen.
Yeah. Oh God!
I read a great book about the history of the Hindenburg Company and sort of paired against one Tripe, however you say his name, Pan Am, and sort of the two of them and how they were fighting back and forth and innovating and whatnot. Really interesting stuff.
What was the name of that book?
I don't know.
I don't know. I made it up.
He's writing it.
They are building it.
Soon.
Yeah.
I mean, but a lot air travel will continue to devolve over as we go on because it's becoming more and more common, right? That's the reality of it.
Did you say evolve or devolve?
Devolve.
Like planes are going to start falling out of the sky again?
No, the experience.
Yeah, because people are animals.
People are animals, but it's like it has to do with the mass problem, right? The more people who engage in it, the more it deteriorates. Right? That's with anything. Because the lowest common denominator continues to go further and further down. Right? When you look at airfares today, they're less than they were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Not even without factoring into inflation.
I just wonder, yeah, I mean, how much more can it devolve? We'll just be all standing up and it'll be herd. It will just be cattle in the back of an airplane, I guess.
Empires of the Sky.
Empires of the Sky. That's the book. That's the book.
Sorry. What were you guys talking about? I was busy being a producer for half a second there.
No, Foz was just saying it's devolved because the more people you add.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm willing to concede that more people getting to do something means it's gotten worse.
No, I was referring to the experience. I'm not saying the experience is devolving because it's the lowest common denominator. It keeps going further and further down. But that's with anything that goes from niche to mainstream.
I think. Wait. Hang on. I'm going to take that argument. I'm going to go a different direction with that argument. So if I've got avocado toast and it's like the niche thing,
oh my god,
and like really cool, and then you add people to it, does that make the avocado toast worse?
Yeah, because now you get more crappy avocado toast because everyone's trying to do it.
This is okay. Okay, fair enough.
Am I wrong?
No. As one hipster to another.
You have this magical experience of avocado toast. You go to some new place and like, oh, avocado toast, I'll get this. And it's literally a chunk of avocado on a piece of white toast.
That's true.
Not the same.
Yeah. Seth still isn't paying attention.
That's okay. He's producing.
I don't like avocado toast. It's fine. And I already have a house, so,
The best part is most avocado toast is just deconstructed guacamole on toast.
Yes. That's why I don't like it. Which is not I don't like guacamole, but,
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you don't like guacamole?
I love guacamole, but I don't think it belongs on bread. I think it should be on chips or other, tortilla-related foods.
Well, tortilla is a type of bread, no?
And yet, here we are.
We've come full circle.
To what?
I have no idea.
I don't think there's anything full here except the shit that's in us and shit.
Well, we're ending the year in true fashion.
Yeah. Completely derailed?
Completely derailed because we can't do it in Europe this year.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true. What else did I have here? Oh, so I saw a article on Reuters about the EPA is finally getting around to ruling on airplane emissions.
Yes, they've they finally issued the guidelines of what the policies and, whatever airlines have to comply with for new aircraft going forward.
Is this going to, this really won't be anything happening immediately. This won't take effect until 2028.
Nothing's going to happen at all. All of the existing planes already qualify.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't actually require any reduction of emissions of any existing aircraft that's ready to be produced.
So how is this even a story then?
Because the EPA finally issued the guidance.
Oh, so they got around to doing their job. Got it.
And did it poorly. Look, when Boeing comes out and is super excited by the new rules around emissions for an aircraft manufacturers, it's not that good for the industry.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not good for the climate. It's great for the industry, but I'll throw a link in the notes, in the show notes, to a Twitter thread from a guy I pay attention to who works in climate emission stuff, where he picks it apart pretty good. And basically, all it does is say, the ICAO standards that were set up are good enough, we'll vaguely follow them, ignoring the fact that the ICAO standards are like absolute minimum possible anything and like don't actually require emissions to drop by 2040 or 2050 really so much as like hope other technologies come along and people do other things instead.
Wow. Let's see. I guess the last topic we can talk about is there's probably two topics. Alaska has promised, in air quotes, blocking middle seats, but only in premium class.
And only if no one else shows up. It's not quite that bad. It's not quite that bad. This isn't like the United of earlier this year, like, oh, we won't sell the middle seats, by which they meant they wouldn't assign middle seats. Mm-hmm. But the main difference is that they are reserving the right to fill the middle seats if there's irregular operations, mostly.
Interesting.
But there's two typos in the fine print, which drives me batty, especially because I know some of the people that work in their like marketing and copywriting department. Open middle seats are not guaranteed. Certain occasions, such as aircraft changes or recommending, instead of reaccommodating, guests from a previously canceled flight may require guests to be seated next to someone not in their party. If you're uncomfortable with the distance between you and others on your day of travel, please speak with a customer service agent about your options. They will not be blocking any seats on planes that don't have middle seats. So if it's a 2-2 layout, you're just is what it is. And if you are in a party of 3 or more and, theoretically can sit in a middle seat without sitting next to a stranger, they reserve the right to force you to do that in order to leave additional seats open for others. So it's not necessarily a perfect way to get a free middle seat, but it probably will. But I don't know. The whole, like, I get the, like, we have to reserve, at some level, we reserve the right to like make sure everybody actually gets where they're going if we had to cancel a flight.
And at the same time, like this is still better than United in what they're doing, which is not blocking middle seats at all.
Yeah, I mean, other than Delta, is anyone really blocking anymore?
I mean, Alaska is still
for this.
Yeah, well, and I mean, they have been.
They have been, yes, and this is through May 31st, so they're actually extending that out beyond what Delta had announced. I think Delta's through March for regular seats, but yeah, I don't know. It's better than nothing, and they almost certainly can afford, like, it's a relatively cheap give because the planes aren't selling out right now, but. Except for Christmas week. I mean, like we talked about earlier, planes were a lot of passengers this month or this week.
So, I mean, you want to talk about that briefly? I mean, you mentioned 1 million passengers for how many days prior to Christmas?
6 of the last 10, 7 of the last 10. Wow. 1.28 million on the 27th on Sunday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 10 days between the 18th and the 27th. We're over 1 million.
And yet we didn't see a lot of, like, images of packed airports like we did for Thanksgiving.
I mean, they were available. I think I saw plenty. But, like, I don't know. I guess, like, it's old now. No one cares.
Less of a story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
We tried to scare people. Not scare. We tried to convince people not to travel on Thanksgiving because it's not good for society, and tried to use the pictures, and it didn't work. So, like, why bother this time?
Not going to waste the ink. Yeah. So, in cool route news, since this is a show that's called Dots, Lines, and Destinations, in a cool line, Azores Air has announced Punta Delgada to Bermuda, and I really want that line.
Yeah.
How long of a flight is this?
2,200 miles.
Really? Wow. Okay, that's further than I thought.
Should have had a little contest there. I probably could have made some money off you guys.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got it.
The one from a couple weeks ago, San Diego or Tijuana to
Cancun.
Cancun, yeah.
Yeah, super long. Another 5-hour flight. Yeah, it's a pretty long flight. And actually, I think looked at the Great Circle Mapper, nips the ETOPS edge of the ETOPS 120 to 138 line. So you actually, I mean, I assume all their aircraft are ETOPS 138 or more anyways, so can fly longer distances over water. They have the ratings and whatnot, but yeah, it's interesting. I like the line. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's around a 4-5 hour flight, 4 hour?
Yeah,
4.5.
4.5 to 5.
Are they going to fly it as a red eye in the easterly direction? Or have they said?
I did not look at the schedule. I'm not sure I've seen it yet.
Will they sell you Boston to Bermuda via Puerto Delgado?
Oh, that would be awesome. I like the way you think. I like the cut of your jib.
Someone, Raphael, the guy who posted the initial load, also mentioned you can fly, mainland North America to Bermuda, to Puerto Delgado, to continental Europe. If you go to Paris, then you can fly to Saint Pierre, which is in the next summer, because that service is coming back too. Saint Pierre and Miquelon, the sort of little outpost of France that sits off the coast of Canada. In the Maritimes, they're bringing that service back, and then from there to Halifax, and then back onward to wherever you actually want to be.
Well, then you could tack on the new Air Greenland routes.
Oh, yeah.
Those are to Halifax?
I thought one was to Halifax.
Yeah, I'd have to check what those are going to be. I do know that they're getting their new A330 800.
800.
That's right. They're the third airline to commit with a total of like 12 frames sold now.
That's Toronto, direct to Nuuk and Ilulissat. All
right.
And then they're also going to start Ottawa, Iqaluit, Nuuk, and then Ottawa to Iqaluit to Ilulissat. I don't know how to say.
Awesome. And I guess from there you can probably continue on to Denmark or Iceland.
I believe the long haul flights go from Nuuk. Yeah.
Interesting.
So they've been talking about moving them. They just need a longer runway at the other airport.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Nuuk will be extended from 950 meters to 2,200 meters, enabling both and Ilulissat will be extended as well, and they'll be able to take bigger aircraft. So interesting stuff. Air Greenland. I've wanted to fly them. They aren't the cheapest carrier out there, but. Yeah,
it's less about cheapest. It's the thought of sitting on a Q4 for so long. Reykjavik to Nuuk. No.
I would love to do that. I mean, is Bermuda to Punta Delgada, is that going to be on a narrow body? Is that the plan? Or have they said?
I haven't seen on the schedule. Let me see if I can pull it up while we're chatting.
Because then you could really do some interesting things like all these island hopping routes via narrow body aircraft.
Oh yes.
And I think the only things that wouldn't be possible yet would be Southern Hemisphere routings around the world on a narrow body.
Yeah, fully antipodal.
Yeah.
Here we go. Punta Delgado to Bermuda is an 8:15 a.m. flight on an A321 operating on Sundays from June 6th to September 26th. It will leave at 8:15 a.m. and arrive at 10:25 a.m., which means this will be a daytime return.
Interesting. Okay.
And then, the plane will then return at 11:40 out of Bermuda and arrive at 7:25 in Punta Delgado, also on Sundays.
And talking about that St. Pierre flight, that's going to be a daytime return to Europe, right, from St. Pierre. So they're gonna do a daytime flight from Orly, I think it's Orly, right, to St. Pierre, and then the crew will spend the night. And then they'll get their rest and they'll return the next day for a daytime flight back to Orly.
So they stay with the plane.
Yeah.
So that'd be. I would like to get all those. That'd be fantastic.
Let's see if any of these actually fly.
Let's see.
Speaking of, apparently JetBlue pulled Palm Springs Fort Lauderdale off the schedule finally.
Wow.
Having tried to sell any seats on it, they have given up. Or maybe it'll operate some, but they definitely have. I was reading through Brett's list; they've definitely killed it. Orlando, Jacksonville, another fun line on Frontier.
Orlando, Jacksonville,
Florida. Yeah, they're about 2.5 hours apart drive wise.
As a native Floridian, Seth,
yes.
What is the clientele on that route?
The U.S. Department of Transportation.
That's what I figured. Okay.
My expectation is that this is being added to it's only for 4 weeks or so, and it's only on Saturdays. I believe it's being added to the route plan to meet what will be assumed the new CARES Act requirements for getting funding, which is you can't cut service to any existing destinations. And so this is the cheapest way for them to operate to Jacksonville once a week and meet that minimum service obligation. There is no other rational explanation. It's not a triangle route. It's literally an out and back with a 35-minute sit up in Jacksonville.
Well, fun stuff. I think that was it for the show, guys. I mean, we kind of breezed through that one. Anything else?
We definitely have a few topics to talk about in our bonus episode.
We do, including my wafting on other purchases that are not airplane tickets.
Also do want a quick shout out to some of our new patrons this past month. Jamin Watson, Henry Chen, Nick Benson, thank you guys all for subscribing and supporting us. Other people, if you want to, you can find us on Patreon. I think we're patreon.com/DotsLinesDestinations, but if not, there's certainly links on the site to do that. A couple bucks here and there helps keep us moving, so we appreciate that. And there's always a little bit of extra content for you along the way.
Yeah. So to our Patreon supporters, thank you again. And to our regular listeners, thank you for listening. You can find us on Twitter at DotsLines, moredotsmorelines.com. Until next time, happy travels.
Take care.
See you later.